We put the family first and rest for God are only seed in our children. I promise to love you from now on until end of time. Amen. Let's put our hands together for him.
What you just heard were Martin Kirimi's wedding vows to his newlywed wife, Mary Mwangi, in July of 2012. Tragically, just days later after they got to Tanzania, where they were hoping to enjoy some quality time, during their honeymoon in Zanzibar, the couple disappeared without a trace. Martin Kirimi and Mary Mwangi shared glimpses of their lives on Facebook. A quick look at Martin's Facebook account makes it clear how much he loved Mary. He frequently posted her photos, and the two often shared pictures together as a couple. Scrolling through Martin's Facebook account also feels like flipping through a time capsule of their love. You see two young people deeply in love, sharing candid moments with friends and family who cheered them on. It's also impossible to miss how excited they were to settle down and start the next chapter of their lives together. And as you browse, soaking it all in, you can't help but smile and say a silent prayer for them and their loved ones. Welcome to Silent Shadows. As always, if you appreciate our true crime storytelling, support our work by liking and subscribing. Together we uncover compelling tales of crimes and mysteries in Kenya and beyond, presenting well-balanced narratives that respect the victims and their loved ones. In 2012, Martin was a 30-year-old nurse at Aga Khan University Hospital in Nairobi. Martin was described by his loved ones as a God-fearing, social, cool, and incredibly hardworking person. Mary, also a social butterfly, had a deep love for kids, which led her to pursue a career in teaching. She worked as a teacher at a school in Westlands, and her students adored her. One of her former students even posted on the Facebook group created for the missing couple by their loved ones, saying, "Mary Mwangi was my year 2 teacher. She was so understanding. I met her with her boyfriend going to the movies in Sarit Center, and when I saw today's paper, it made me miss her sweet and loving smile." After 2 years together, Martin and Mary decided to get married, and they did so on Saturday, 14th July 2012, at Seagull Gardens and Restaurant in Juja. Their wedding was a beautiful and intimate celebration, filled with laughter, love, and the warmth of family and friends. Mary, all dolled up, looked stunning in a classic white wedding dress, her smile never fading as she walked down the aisle, hand in hand with her mother. Martin, on the other hand, stood at the altar, watching her with pure admiration. As the couple said their vows, they were heartfelt, and their guests could not stop smiling. Finally, the couple signed their marriage certificate, and with the formalities out of the way, it was time to party. Their wedding reception was full of life. Music, dancing, and heartfelt speeches from loved ones, all wishing them a lifetime of happiness. As the day came to an end, the newlyweds looked forward to unwinding after the hectic months of wedding planning as they checked into a local hotel where they spent 2 nights. After their relaxing staycation, on the evening of Monday, 16th July 2012, Martin and Mary attended a dinner hosted by Mary's sister at her home in Kasarani, Nairobi. According to Mary's sister, the couple was super happy, eagerly anticipating their long-awaited 10-day honeymoon in Zanzibar. As they had dinner, they laughed, shared stories, and spoke excitedly about their upcoming trip to Zanzibar. Tragically, no one at the dinner could have imagined that this would be the last time they would ever see the couple, as just days later, they would go missing. The couple's honeymoon travel plans were very straightforward. They intended to travel by road to Namanga at the Kenya-Tanzania border, then take a bus to Dar es Salaam and join the scenic views along the way. From there, they planned to board a ferry to Zanzibar. After 10 days of relaxation and adventure in Zanzibar, they planned to fly back home, but this moment never came. They, however, had not pre-booked their stays at any hotels in Dar es Salaam or Zanzibar, as it had proven to be expensive. They intended to walk into the hotels they planned to stay in and book their accommodation. Originally, the couple had planned to leave Kenya for Zanzibar on Monday, 16th July 2012, but they delayed their trip to get the mandated yellow fever vaccination so as to avoid any issues at immigration. The couple left for their honeymoon the following day, on Tuesday, 17th July 2012, at around 9:20 a.m. While at Namanga on the Kenya-Tanzania border, they spoke to several family members, including Mary's brother. During the call, Martin assured him that he would buy a Tanzanian SIM card once they got to Dar es Salaam and call him. At Namanga, the couple boarded the Dar Express bus to the Tanzanian city of Dar es Salaam. The Dar Express bus service reported that the bus arrived in Dar es Salaam around 9:30 p.m. and another passenger later confirmed that the couple had indeed arrived safely in the Tanzanian city. Despite assuring their families they would call upon reaching Dar es Salaam, Martin and Mary never did. The following day, Wednesday, 18th July 2012, the couple had still not contacted their families. While their families respected the couple's desire for privacy during their honeymoon and understood they did not want to be disturbed, their concerns grew when they heard the breaking news about a ferry capsizing in Tanzania. On the same day, the Tanzania Meteorological Authority had warned of rough seas, but the captain of the ferry that capsized, the MV Skagit, sailed as planned despite other vessels delaying their departures. The MV Skagit left the port of Dar es Salaam at 12:05 p.m. for Zanzibar. Now, the exact number of passengers on board the ferry as it left Dar es Salaam remains unclear due to discrepancies in records. But according to the report by the commission probing the ferry's accident, the ferry was over capacity with approximately 377 passengers and various types of cargo, such as agricultural produce, textile, books, and furniture on board. When the ferry departed from the port of Dar es Salaam, passengers who survived the tragic accident reported that the ocean was rough, with strong winds and high waves. As the ferry picked up speed against the powerful wind, the high waves hit the vessel, causing it to become unstable as it neared Chumbe Island. Even though the captain reassured the passengers there was no problem and that the ferry would continue on to Zanzibar, the weather conditions soon worsened. The strong winds and towering waves pushed the ferry off course, and the captain lost control. The ferry tilted to one side before being struck by a powerful wave that capsized it. The ferry overturned west of Zanzibar near Chumbe Island around 1:55 p.m. Although the ferry had only one exit, lacked sufficient life-saving equipment including life jackets and boats, and passengers were packed tightly with little room to move. Some passengers were fortunate enough to escape by jumping overboard and clinging to lifeboats that automatically inflated, while others held on to floating debris. Sadly, many passengers lost their lives as they remained trapped inside the vessel. But it wasn't just the bad weather conditions that caused the MV Skagit ferry to capsize. The ferry had many operational issues. To understand them, it's important to look at the ferry's history. The MV Skagit, originally known simply as Skagit, along with its sister ferry known as Kalama, were acquired by the Washington State Ferries in the US. In 1989, they served as passenger-only ferries, transporting passengers between Seattle and Vashon Island in Washington. However, both ferries proved to be unreliable due to frequent breakdowns, and they were retired in 2006 when Washington State Ferries ceased operating passenger-only boats. Washington State Ferries then tried selling the two vessels on eBay in April of 2010 for $300,000 for each vessel, but they were unsuccessful in selling them. The two ferries were eventually sold in 2011 to Seagull Sea Limited in Tanzania for a total of $400,000. In Tanzania, the two ferries were to provide transportation services between Dar es Salaam and Zanzibar. But here's the thing, the ferries had an operational lifespan of 25 years. So by the time they were sold to Seagull Sea Limited in Tanzania in 2011, they had only 3 years of operational life left, and the wear and tear was evident. The East African newspaper even reported that, due to the MV's cargo's age, the relevant maritime governing bodies in the US had reduced its recommended passenger capacity from 250 passengers to 148. Remember, when the ferry capsized, it had approximately 377 passengers on board. Additionally, both the US Coast Guard and the US Department of Transportation had recommended that the vessel was not designed to operate more than 32 kilometers from a safe harbor. Yet, it was sailing more than 72 kilometers between Dar es Salaam and Zanzibar. Also, as per the two American organizations, the vessel could not withstand high winds or rough seas, and it was limited to operating only in calm weather conditions, so as to remain upright. Furthermore, passenger movements inside the ferry had to be minimized, as it could not handle an evenly distributed weight. The ferry was also prohibited from carrying heavy cargo, with the only allowed cargo being the passengers' light carry-on bags. Essentially, the MV's cargo was completely unsuitable to operate, and Seagull Transport Limited's greed led them to acquire the ferry for operation in Tanzania, which ultimately resulted in the deaths and disappearances of hundreds of people. The two ferries, the MV's Kagit and Kalama, arrived in Tanzania in November of 2011, as per the report by the commission mandated to investigate the MV's Kagit's accident. One of the mandatory documents the owner of Seagull Transport Limited, One Said Juma, was required to submit to the Zanzibar Maritime Authority, ZMA, to obtain the necessary operating certificate for the MV's Kagit was the result of a stability test. The stability test helps determine whether the ship's center of gravity and weight distribution are within safe limits, which is crucial for ensuring the vessel can safely carry passengers and cargo without the risk of capsizing, particularly in rough sea conditions. The owner of the MV's Kagit did not submit the results of the stability test. Alongside this, several of the MV's Kagit's crew members, including the chief engineer, lacked proper licensing and certification. In essence, the ship owner hired unqualified personnel to operate the ferry, violating the Tanzanian maritime safety regulations. Despite all these safety violations, the ZMA still issued the MV's Kagit a safe manning certificate and a certificate to operate on Thursday, 24th November 2011. 8 months later, the ferry capsized. Here is another irregularity. The owner of the ferry did not just get one operation certificate. He got two. As per the findings by the commission, the owner of the ship, Said Juma, allegedly used corrupt means to obtain two conflicting operation certificates from the ZMA, the Zanzibar Maritime Authority. These certificates permitted the MV's Kagit to operate with different passenger limits at different ports. In Zanzibar, the ship was allowed to carry only 250 passengers, while in Dar es Salaam, it was authorized to carry between 300 and 380 passengers. Keep in mind that, due to the ship's old age, its capacity had been reduced by the relevant authorities in the US from 250 passengers to just 148 passengers. So the MV's Kagit, carrying more passengers than the recommended number of 148 passengers, was a recipe for disaster. After the MV's Kagit capsized at 1:30 p.m., passengers with mobile phones desperately called their friends, family, and authorities asking for help. The first official distress report to the signal station at Zanzibar and the Maritime Rescue and Coordination Center in Dar es Salaam came from a nearby ferry also heading to Zanzibar that witnessed the MV's Kagit struggling before it went under. Despite these calls for help, It wasn't until over 2 hours later, between 3:45 p.m. and 4 p.m., that the first rescue boats began arriving. The rescue boats found surviving passengers, some in lifeboats, others floating in life jackets, and others clinging to floating objects, such as the wooden debris and other materials from the ferry. Luckily, 146 people were rescued. Unfortunately, the bad weather made it extremely difficult to locate most of the passengers. One of the divers at the scene, involved in the rescue mission, noted that they dived up to 25 meters but were unable to locate the sunken ferry. The diver speculated that strong underwater currents had pushed it from its original sinking location, which made it impossible to recover the remains of the passengers who had been trapped inside the ferry. Over the next 5 days following the accident, some of the bodies of the missing passengers began surfacing in the ocean, while some washed up along the Zanzibar coastline, where they were recovered by local fishermen. Approximately 150 passengers on board the MV Skagit ferry were never found. They disappeared into the vast Indian Ocean without a trace. Back in Kenya, Martin and Mary's family had still not heard from the couple. Deeply worried about their whereabouts, they desperately needed answers to the questions they had. Some of the unanswered questions included: did the couple stay overnight in Dar es Salaam? If so, where did they stay? Were they on board the ferry? Or had they, by any chance, made it to Zanzibar before the ferry capsized? In search of answers, the couple's loved ones launched a search for them on social media using the hashtag #FindTheKirimis, which trended on Twitter, now X, for days. Determined to find answers, Martin's family sent one of his brothers to Tanzania on the weekend of Saturday, 20th July 2012, to search for the couple. He went to Zanzibar to establish whether Martin and Mary were among the bodies recovered from the sea. When he got to the camp, which had been set up to help people identify the bodies of their loved ones, he relied on the couple's wedding rings and body structures to try and identify them. But the bodies were so disfigured and hard to identify, and he did not find Martin and Mary amongst them. The couple's family and friends did not give up hope of finding them, and they continued to rally together to amplify the news of their disappearance online and offline. They created a Facebook group to share updates and pray for the couple's safe return, while also partaking in interviews with news outlets to spread the word. They also worked with Interpol, the police in Tanzania, and Kenya's embassy in Tanzania to search for the couple. Additionally, they placed missing persons ads in Tanzanian newspapers, and in collaboration with the relevant authorities, they circulated photos of Martin and Mary to various hotels in Dar es Salaam, hoping someone had seen them. They also filed a missing persons report at Athi River Police Station in Kenya on Thursday, 26th July 2012. Still, all these efforts bore no fruits, and Martin and Mary remained missing. Almost a month after the ferry capsized, more bodies washed up in Tanga. To determine if Martin and Mary were among them, Martin's brother and Mary's brother traveled from Kenya to Tanzania. They took a bus from Kenya to Tanzania with the goal of retracing the couple's steps. They got to Dar es Salaam around 9:30 p.m. About the same time Martin and Mary had arrived in the city, and they began searching through hotels in the city, hoping to find out if the couple had spent the night in one of them before possibly boarding the ferry the next day. Regrettably, their search yielded no results. However, one taxi driver did recall seeing the couple. He mentioned that he had offered to drive them, but they had declined, saying they were waiting for someone. To gather more information from the Tanzanian public about whether anyone else had seen the couple, the family continued to place ads in local newspapers, on radio stations, and on TV. Yet, according to the Nation newspaper, no one else came forward to shed light on Martin and Mary's movements after they arrived in Tanzania. Therefore, the question still lingers. Where did the couple stay in Dar es Salaam on the night of Tuesday, 17th July 2012, before heading to Zanzibar the next day, on Wednesday, 18th July 2012? DNA tests could have helped the family determine if the couple were among the recovered bodies, but conducting tests on such a large number of people was too expensive for the family to pursue. Another question that still persists is whether the couple actually got onto the MV Skagit ferry. One thing that could have helped shed light on this is the ship's manifest. The Tanzanian Surface and Marine Transportation Regulatory Authority, Sumatra, mandates all ferry services to document passengers' names, ticket numbers, seat numbers, nationality, next of kin, among other details. Yet, the MV Skagit did not adhere to these rules. Martin's brother, while in Tanzania, reported seeing the ferry's manifest. As per his account, most of the names were recorded as initials or first names, with other key identifying details such as nationality, identification number missing. The unreliability of the ferry's manifest in identifying the passengers was also echoed by the commission investigating the accident. The commission noted the poor quality of the passenger data, with some passengers not even recorded at all, which made it nearly impossible to identify who was on board. Consequently, this made it impossible for the authorities and the couple's family to fully ascertain, without a shadow of a doubt, that the couple were indeed aboard the ferry when it capsized. The other lingering question is whether by chance the couple never boarded the MV Skagit and by chance made it to Zanzibar for their honeymoon, where something sinister might have happened. For this question, Interpol was able to confirm with certainty that the couple did not make it to Zanzibar. Tragedy struck the couple's families once again when about 2 months after Mary and Martin disappeared without a trace, Mary's mother passed away. While the official cause of death was a cardiac arrest, her family firmly believes that the stress and heartbreak of Mary's disappearance played a significant role in her passing. At this point, you might wonder how involved were the Kenya police in searching for Martin and Mary. According to the couple's family, a year after their disappearance, the Kenyan police had yet to provide any updates on the progress of the investigation. The Kenya police even told them they would first study Interpol's report before determining their next course of action, but nothing materialized even after they received the Interpol report. Inasmuch as it's largely believed that Martin and Mary were in the ferry that capsized, the Kenyan police, helping piece together the couple's time during their short time in Tanzania, would have helped their loved ones find closure. As we wrap up this episode, we'd like to address some loose ends and answer some of the what happened questions you might still have. Firstly, what happened to Said Juma, the owner of the MV Skagit? Juma, along with Musa Makame, the ferry's captain, and Hassan Mkoje, the company manager, were arrested and charged with manslaughter at the Zanzibar High Court. However, there is no publicly available information on whether they were ever prosecuted. Secondly, what happened to the MV Skagit's sister ferry Kalama? Like the MV Skagit, Kalama was deemed unsafe for operation and was subsequently retired in 2012. Lastly, with so many years having passed, what happened to the search of Martin and Mary? In 2020, Mary's family petitioned the High Court of Kenya in Kerugoya to declare and presume her legally dead, as she had not been seen or heard from in 7 years. The court granted the order declaring and presuming Mary Mwangi legally dead on 27 February 2020. In issuing the order, the judge stated by part, "In the circumstances of this case, there is a presumption that she is dead and she went missing from the date when the boat capsized while sailing to Zanzibar where the deceased was heading for her honeymoon. I therefore allow the application and order that Mary Wairimu Mwangi is presumed dead. Our thoughts and prayers go out to Martin and Mary's loved ones. May they find strength, comfort, and peace in the midst of their loss. Thank you for joining us today. If you appreciated this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel to be notified when the next video is up. Until then, please take care, stay safe, and always, always trust your gut.